I'm really excited to have my next guest on the podcast. He's the president and CEO at Cyrstal Creek Homes. Welcome to the podcast, Justin Bobier.
Thank you, Joe. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to have you on. Let's just jump right into it. How about you let the listeners know who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Justin Bobier, and I'm a single-family home builder in the province of Alberta. We build in Edmonton and Calgary. First started the company in 2004 in Calgary, and we expanded to Edmonton in 2013. We would build various products from townhomes and duplexes to single family right up to the custom estate, $2.5 million type homes. So we're sort of across the board, and we do multifamily buildings as well.
You'd mentioned that you started in 2004. Obviously, that's a founder's journey. You're at 7 communities, 50 employees. How was that? What made you want to jump into real estate?
Well, it's been a ride for sure. I've got a very unique story in our industry, actually. So I grew up a carpenter's son and fell into the world of being a tradesman and absolutely loved what I did for a living. Had no regrets and enjoyed every week of it. And I liked everything that went around with being a tradesman in terms of my flexibility and my autonomy. However, unfortunately, I was injured at work, and so I was, on the sidelines for about 3.5 months. And here I was, a father of four, in a great family, but I had this, fantastic income of a tradesperson that went to zero overnight. And so for those 3.5 months, while I was unable to do any sort of physical work, it sort of got me to thinking, is this really what I want to do? I'm kind of trading time for money, and is there maybe something out there that's a little bit different for me? And that's when, kind of after that epiphany, and I got back to work, and you start thinking about that. And I was kind of in my early to mid 30s, and my sister said, "Hey, well, you built a few houses for yourself. What would you think about building one for me and my family?" And so I thought, well, could this be the start of something that I've been looking for? I've always felt I could build a house better than anyone else. And so that was really the first time I had taken on a contract. And I thought, her husband was a litigation lawyer. So I thought, well, no more doing this under the table. I'm going to have to be legit and start a company. And so my wife at the time and I came up with Cyrstal Creek Homes. And really, that was the infancy of it. And we started on one house, and I maintained my job as a tradesman for probably the next 12 to 14 months. And what happened through that process is all of a sudden she had some friends and they wanted houses built. And I said, how does cost plus 15% sound? And everybody said good. And I said, afterwards, I thought to myself, I don't even know what cost plus 15% means. I've heard it a lot, but I don't know what it means. So that was really the early beginnings of Cyrstal Creek Home.
I love that. Sometimes you just need that little opportunity to just walk through that door. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as a founder, there's always challenges, almost like a hero's journey type story. What sort of challenges have you had within those early years of founding the business?
Well, I love work and I love the actual physical work. And as the company started to grow, I knew that I wasn't going to be doing that. And so, letting that stuff kind of go. And I would say that was really the biggest challenge, is letting things go and then realizing what are the things I'm really good at and what are the things I need help with. And, so for me, financing, understanding corporate structure, those were things I really needed help with. And it's difficult when you don't know what you don't know and you rely on others and, you ask them questions. And I would just say that, challenge for me is, not putting too much faith into individuals and believing when somebody says, oh, this is how you do it and that's how you should be doing it, rather than questioning it first and doing your due diligence. And so I fell into that as challenges when we first started a little bit. But I think one of the secrets to our success really was a pretty simple formula of just being honest with people. Let's have some fun, because this should be a good experience. And at the end of the day, ensuring that everybody has a positive experience as they with different touch points throughout the building experience.
Absolutely, I love that. Just let's have some fun, having that optimism in times of challenge. On that note, how do you build resilience in challenging times? I know you touched on being positive and optimistic, but how else would you build resilience in challenge?
It's really interesting as a small company when you're first growing and you have, somebody that you think is a great employee and then they come in and they say, "Hey, I'm quitting." Like you take it as a personal defeat. It's like, what's so bad about this is a great place to work. This is the best place in the world. And so I think you just need to sort of separate the personal from, the business and what is in the best interest of everybody, understanding that everybody has choices to make and sometimes the best choice to make is not with our company. Resiliency, it's that fight. I would say that I know for myself when somebody tells me no, I use that as a real motivating factor to be able to come and kind of put it back in their face to say, "See, I did it. I told you." And so, I would just say that when you're getting started off, there's so many people that say, "No, you can't do that," or "That's going to fail," or that negativity. And I think if you just have the mindset of taking all of that and saying, "That's why I'm going to be successful because this is what everybody is saying. And I'm going to go out and I'm actually going to do those things. And I'm going to do the tough stuff. I'm going to do the hard stuff. It's not easy." And so if you can, get through that and you start to build that. And really one of the things I would say from my teammates here at Crystal Creek is when they see you as the founder digging in, they get that, how can I say that mindset as well. And so, there's nothing that can't be accomplished in a very short period of time if you put your mind to it.
Absolutely, I love that. Just roll up your sleeves and kind of push through that negativity and almost have it as a chip on your shoulder to do great things and have that success. Speaking of almost like hindsight's 2020, what would you say is the biggest thing you wish you would have known when you first began your career?
How much bloody money it takes to run a company.
Yep.
In our business, it's very capital intensive. And, as we started to grow in the capital needs, and honestly, I did not have the financial acumen or background. And then starting to deal with investors and starting to understand that, I think I wish I would have had a better understanding of, from an investor standpoint, what are people actually looking for and giving versus giving away too much because you're just happy that anybody would give you money to take and then produce more money for them. So for me, understanding the financial and the corporate sort of things would have been a big benefit to me early on as I got started with Crystal Creek. However, I've often said to people, when it's your own money, you figure it out really quickly, and you understand how to leverage and how the system works and play within the rules. And I would just say, keeping that in mind, one of the things that's been our biggest success is just being honest and saying, "I don't know," when you don't know, and "I need help" when I need help. And, by having that vulnerability and that honesty has really been a secret sauce in our success as a company because, people realize you're not putting on anything phony or anything else. It's, people want to help. Most times I've often said, if I come to somebody and say, "Hey, I need you to do this," or "I need you to do that," most people are going to have resistance right away. But if you say, "Hey, I need help," I'm wondering if you can lend me a hand. Can you help me with this? People will bend over backwards for you.
Mm, I love that honesty and vulnerability is the secret sauce, and obviously that secret sauce has led you guys well. I see you guys have won many awards, best new home. But what's maybe something that Crystal Creek does that a lot of people don't know about?
Well, I mean, it's, I had four children, and, unfortunately one had fallen into, the drug scene. And, that was really, really difficult for us. And we became a recovery home, for a period of time where we were taking in, kids that were vulnerable and kids that were on the street, through a rehabilitation program that he was involved in. And that really starts to change your mindset, for us in terms of, you fall in love with these kids and, some of them, I was reading about in the paper, they were the worst of the worst kids, and having them in your home, you just fall in love with every single one of them. And so for us, we're a big supporter of something called the Terminator Foundation, which encourages youth in that are going through challenges, mental health issues, depression, drug addiction, those sorts of things, and gets them involved in sport. And so that's been something that we've been really proud of as the key sponsor for that. And it's really given us a little bit of a social identity as well, in terms of what we're about as a company and giving people a hand up versus a handout. You know, it's funny. I remember we had one of our suppliers who came to us and said, you know, you've got to fire this guy because he's encouraging hiring drug addicts, and people that are working from him are from off the street. And I sat back and I phoned that individual up and thanked him so much for the amount of time and extra effort it takes to employ individuals like that, and gave him a high five. And he does most of our work to this day. So that's probably something people don't really realize about, you know, when you're building homes, it becomes much bigger as your company starts to grow. And it's more about, you know, building somebody their dream house. It's about how do we affect people individually. You know, we have so many people that we touch. We have our own individual employees, but from a trades perspective, we employ well over, you know, 1,000 people at any given time. And so each of them are going through their own challenges, and how can we be a positive, motivating force, not only as an employer, but, you know, somebody that they can rely on.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're leading with empathy, and having those core values as a company really helps influence your community and the people around you. What would you say, besides those qualities, what would you say is your unique skill that's helped you become such a successful leader, leading such a successful company?
Well, you know, when it comes to building homes, people can't bullshit me on what's going on because I've been hands on and I've built homes myself and I know every single trade. And so when people come and say, well, we're having a challenge because we can't do this, I know better. And so people can't fool me when it comes to that. So I would say one of the things that has been really core is understanding your business, understanding what the guy on site is going through at who gets there at 5:30 in the morning, and you know what he experiences, and understanding what everybody is going through, right from the littlest thing in your company right through. And it's not that you have to do it every day, but you need to understand the challenges that each of those individuals face on a day-to-day basis, and how you can make their life easier, and you know, have empathy for the challenges that they face.
A common theme of the podcast is success, and I'm always curious to ask my guests what does success mean to them. So, my next question to you would be: what does success look like professionally or personally for you?
Oh man, so I just went through this recently, and you know, we have an employee who is having some challenges, and you know, it was interesting because internally there was a bunch of people that said, well, you know, let's put this individual on short-term disability. We don't know how long they're going to be away. And I just thought, you know, they're going through so much stress in their life right now with their health issue. I don't think they need financial stress. And so we decided as a company to pay them right through. And they've been off for about 6 months, and will probably be off for another 6 months. And they may never come back, to be honest. But we've made the decision to pay them through, as a real valued employee who's been here the past 7 years. And I think, you know, she wrote me a really special note about how much we have affected her as an employer. And I think to me, that's the definition of success, is having a positive impact on others. And, you know, it doesn't need to be financial. It doesn't need to be, you know, the bottom line that we often, you know, need to be aware of, because it is something you have to have in a company. You know, you can't be ashamed to make profit. But at the same time, it's about the positive impact you have on others, whether it's clients, employees, family, friends. It's just being a positive influence. To me, that's how I define success.
Mm, that's quite inspiring. I think I have goosebumps. Be a positive impact in the community. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of my core values as well. Speaking of inspiration, what's maybe something that you've read or listened to recently that's really inspired you?
I'm fortunate to be a member of Tech Canada, which we have a really close knit group, and we'll often, talk about different books or different, inspirations. We have some great speakers that have come in, and I think, one is just understanding sort of your core purpose and your energy, and how to align that with what your goals are, and then going to achieve those. And so I can't think of a book in particular, but I just know that kind of that, learning to breathe when you're stressed out, and breathing through your nose, and just different things like that that have inspired me in terms of setting goals, going out and executing on them, and then celebrating when that happens. So, to me, I think that anything that aligns with that sort of positivity is always good to be around. And although I can't think of anything instantaneously, that I'm certainly always looking at anecdotes or sayings or influencers that will have a positive impact on you.
Absolutely. I can't remember who told me this, but I heard that you're the sum of the people you surround yourself with. So
Hmm.
if you have that positivity around you, or at least having that influence, you tend to be more positive, optimistic, and that really helps in times of challenge as well. But no, that's awesome.
Yeah, you are who you hang out with.
Exactly. Well said. I only have a couple more questions here for you. I'd love to get your perspective on Calgary. Curious how Calgary has changed from when you first started to now.
Oh, that's a great question. When I first moved, so I grew up in Edmonton, and I moved to Calgary in 1996. And when I got here, I could not believe the energy of the city. Everybody was doing something. Everybody was either building a new home, or starting a new business, or taking a vacation. And it just seemed there was so much energy and positivity and encouragement of one another. It was really, at the time, one of the biggest things that we noticed moving to the city of Calgary from Edmonton, which overall kind of had a little bit of negativity around it. Since then, kind of through that 2015 to 2020 year of the oil patch bust, if you will, we had a vote to, and I believe this was in 2018, to hold the Olympics here in the city. And the citizens of Calgary actually voted it down. I think that was the lowest point in the history of the city of Calgary, that we didn't feel that we could pull off an international event, and we were afraid. And that is so opposite of the Calgary that I know, the energy and the can-do attitude. And, I would say that we're starting to see that positivity come back, but this province has really been hit hard through, that bust in the oil industry. And although we like to pride ourselves on we're not just an oil and gas province, we are really an oil and gas province. And when, those companies are doing well, everybody feeds off of that. And it is really what drives our economy. And so, we see now that that positivity is starting to come back, but certainly different than when I first moved here in the late 90s and early 2000s, where it really was the Wild West, quite honestly. And there wasn't anything you couldn't do, because we could make things happen. So it's changed a lot over the years.
Absolutely. What's maybe something that you're proud of that we haven't touched on in the interview so far?
Talk a little bit about kids. Wow, what's something that I'm proud of? I'll take it back to business here in Alberta. In Calgary, there's the Alberta Health Region that has a lottery foundation home that they award to really one of the top builders in the industry, and they pour a ton of advertising into it, and it gives back to the community so much. And we were the recipient this year of being awarded the lottery home that will open up in 2023. And to us, that's such a great thing to rally around, as our tradespeople and partners of doing something that is just great for the community. It's something obviously we know very well in terms of building a house and knocking it out of the park. And I'm really, really looking forward to the draw, when it's a $2.9 million home that somebody's going to win. The draw will be next November. The house will open next August. So I would say that I'm really proud of the fact that as an organization, we're viewed as one of the top industry leaders and somebody that the Alberta Health Trust has put their trust in us in order to deliver on the next lottery home.
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure having you on the podcast, having a top industry leader on the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the interview as much as I have. You've definitely dropped a lot of golden nuggets, I like to call. Where can our listeners connect with you online?
Our website at crystalcreekhomes.ca is a good place to go. My contact email is right there. My email is justin@Crystal Creek Homes, or LinkedIn is always a good place to get me, but probably the best way for people to connect if they'd like to hear more or understand or have more questions or clarity around the journey.
Or if they want to build a home, reach out to Cyrstal Creek Homes.
Yes.
Awesome. I only have one last question for you here before we head out. My last question is, what does being a leader or leadership mean to you?
It's about setting the right example. It's about not understand, when you look at someone and you say, man, they're doing this wrong. Why are they doing that wrong? Looking at yourself first to say, what have I done incorrectly so that they're doing this wrong? I must have done something wrong. It's looking at yourself first, and rather than pointing fingers, pointing it first at yourself and saying, there must be something in my training or something in my communication style that I've done incorrectly that would lead them down this path where they think what they're doing is correct. And so rather than looking at that individual as being needing correction, it's really, what is it that I'm doing that needs correcting? And so to me, that is leadership, taking it on the shoulders, setting the example, and understanding that in order to get everybody moving in the right direction, that's on me, and setting the proper example. And it filters down. I mean, it's a pyramid at the end of the day. You've got your management team that making sure that they understand and they're communicating correctly. And when we have failures in results, it's looking at ourselves internally to say, what are we doing wrong? Hi, I'm Justin Bobier, and you're listening to Joe Momoh Presents.
Thanks again for watching the Joe Momoh Presents podcast. For more episodes, check out joemomoh.com/podcasts. All right, see you next time.